What would you do if, moments before your wedding vows, someone you trusted revealed a secret that could unravel everything you believed about love? The air was thick with the scent of roses and anticipation. My heart pounded as I stood in the bridal suite, the weight of my white gown anchoring me to the moment. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, Lily, the bride, with her dark hair swept up and eyes shimmering with dreams of forever. Today was supposed to be perfect. I was about to marry James, the man who had promised me a life of laughter and love. But just as I adjusted my veil, the door creaked open, and there she was, Clara, my sister-in-law, her face pale and urgent. "Lily, we need to talk now," she whispered, her voice trembling. Before I could protest, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me through a side door I hadn't noticed before. It led to a narrow hallway, dim and dusty, ending at a small, hidden room tucked behind the chapel's ancient walls. The door clicked shut behind us, muffling the distant hum of the organ. My pulse raced. Why was she doing this? What couldn't wait? Clara's eyes darted to the door, as if she feared we'd be followed. "I'm sorry, Lily," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something you need to know before you walk down that aisle." Her hands shook as she pulled a folded letter from her purse. The paper was worn, edges frayed, as if it had been read 1,000 times. "This is from James. He wrote it years ago, before you met him." My stomach twisted. James? My James, who could make me laugh even on my darkest days. The man who'd proposed under a sky full of stars, promising to love me through every storm? I took the letter, my hands trembling. The words were in his handwriting, unmistakable, but they weren't meant for me. They were addressed to someone named Emily. As I read, my world tilted. The letter spoke of a love so deep it seemed to burn through the Pagea love for Emily, a woman he'd planned to marry. He described their dreams, their plans for a life together, and a promise to never let her go. But the letter ended abruptly, with a plea for forgiveness. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," he'd written. My knees buckled. Who was Emily? And why had James never mentioned her? Clara watched me, her eyes filled with pity. "Emily was his fiancée," she said softly. "She died in a car accident 3 years before you met him. He was driving. He's never forgiven himself." The room spun. I clutched the letter, my mind racing. Why hadn't he told me? Was I just a replacement, a way to fill the void Emily left behind? The organ's music grew louder, signaling the ceremony was about to begin. I wanted to scream, to run, but Clara grabbed my hand. "There's more," she said, her voice breaking. "He's been keeping something else from you. He's sick, Lily. Really sick. He didn't want you to know because he didn't want you to marry him out of pity." The words hit like a punch. Sick. My James, with his boundless energy, his infectious smile? I thought of the times he'd seemed tired, brushing it off as work stress. Was it all a lie? I sank to the floor, the letter crumpling in my fist. "Why are you telling me this now?" I choked out. "Because you deserve to know the truth," Clara said, kneeling beside me. "I love my brother, but I love you too. You're family now. You need to decide if you can walk down that aisle knowing everything." The weight of her words pressed against my chest. I thought of James waiting at the altar, his warm brown eyes searching for me. I thought of the life we'd planned, children, a little house by the lake, growing old together. Was it all built on secrets? My heart screamed to run to him, to demand answers, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Then, a soft knock broke the silence. The door creaked open, and a woman stepped inside. She was older, her hair streaked with gray, her eyes kind but weary. "I'm sorry to intrude," she said, her voice gentle. "I'm Margaret, Emily's mother." My breath caught. The twist of her presence felt like a jolt of lightning. How was she here? Why now? Clara looked as shocked as I felt, her hand flying to her mouth. Margaret stepped closer, her gaze soft but resolute. "I heard about the wedding," she said. "I've been watching from afar, not wanting to interfere. But when Clara reached out, I knew I had to come." She pulled a small, silver locket from her pocket and handed it to me. Inside was a photo of a young woman with bright eyes and a smile that mirrored James's. "Emily. She loved him so much," Margaret said. "And he loved her. But when she died, a part of him broke. You brought him back, Lily. You gave him hope again." Tears streamed down my face as I stared at the locket. Margaret's words were a lifeline, pulling me from the edge of doubt. "He didn't tell you about his illness because he wanted you to choose him for love, not obligation," she continued. "He's been fighting it quietly, hoping for more time with you." I closed the locket, my heart aching but clearer. Emily wasn't my rival, she was a part of James's story, a chapter that shaped him into the man I loved. And his illness? It was a shadow, but it didn't change the light he brought into my life. I stood, smoothing my gown, the letter still in my hand. "Thank you," I whispered to Margaret, then to Clara. I needed to know. Clara's eyes softened. "What will you do?" she asked. I took a deep breath, the organ's melody calling me back to the present. "I'm going to marry him," I said, my voice steady. "Not because I have to, but because I want to. Every moment with him is worth it, no matter how many we have left." Margaret smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You're exactly what he needs," she said. As I stepped back into the hallway, the weight of the letter and the locket felt lighter. Clara walked beside me, her hand squeezing mine. The chapel doors loomed ahead, and through the crack, I saw James at the altar, his face lighting up as he caught sight of me. My heart swelled. This wasn't the perfect wedding I'd imagined, it was better. It was real, raw, and ours. I walked down the aisle, my eyes locked on his. The secrets, the pain, the love, they were all part of us now. And as I took his hand, I knew I was choosing not just James, but every piece of his heart, broken and whole. The vows we spoke were more than words, they were a promise to face the unknown together, to love fiercely, no matter what came next. Years later, when I looked back on that day, I didn't remember the flowers or the music. I remembered the hidden room, the letter, and the woman who gave me the courage to choose love over fear. I remembered James's smile, brighter than ever, even as his strength faded. And I remembered the locket, tucked in my drawer, a reminder that love doesn't erase the past, it builds on it, creating something stronger, something eternal.